got somebody very special on the line, so let's jump right into that. Okay, so we're talking about the PMP's suggestion for legislative reform. They want to break the bias against women in Jamaica. Now, I need to know what this means. How, after so many years, decades, might as well say centuries, are we going to do this? Well, we've got somebody special on the line, so we're going to be checking in right now with Mrs. Duncan Sutherland. Hi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How are you, Nikki Z?
Gorgeous! Glasses, hair, bop, bop. I love it. Yes, nice. Welcome. She's the president.
You've been jamming to your music and ting.
Oh, nice. I hope you enjoy. I try to make sure, play for everybody. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, And that's what we're talking about today. That's what we're talking about, getting something for everybody so we can stop this separation. But how are we going to break the bias?
Well, to break the bias, first we have to be aware that we have the bias.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's part of our problem in Jamaica. I don't think we are fully aware of the bias and the extent to which the bias impacts us, even as we move forward.
Yeah.
Even us as strong women who are breaking barriers. And like yourself, I understand you are in the U.S. Army. You are in a quote-unquote man's world now as a DJ.
Yeah. I go through it, and then it's like a lot of times when you have to, be strong or try to demand, and I hate using those words because when I say demand, I mean like demand the simple things that every other person who might not have the same body parts I have gets. It gets frustrating because then it makes it seem like you're a nitpicky person or, miserable,
It is difficult, and that's where and the persons who you are speaking with don't even realize that they are being biased. They're thinking like,
exactly.
Doesn't she know she should just relax?
Oh, I hate that word. Talk about a trigger word. Oh, when somebody say relax. Oh,
right.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
And I can imagine in your world too, you must be faced with a lot of sexual harassment.
Mama, but let's talk about the world because I could give you a book. But like I said, my upbringing was a little different. My mama was very tough. Then I go into the army. So, I was kind of born a fighter. But there's a lot of people that really weren't. Maybe they were sheltered. And now you're in the real world. And now you have to deal with all this. It's hard to deal with.
Well, we were having a discussion in the, women's movement, one of our meetings as we were preparing for this International Women's Day about Break the Bias. And one of our elders, can I say, our first president, Bev Manley Duncan, she made the point that, we say to our girls, you can be anything that you want to be, but we don't tell them what they're going to face when they go out into the world.
Facts. Yeah.
So they are not really prepared for the biases. They're not really prepared for the fight that they're going to go. They go out there with a big bravado. Yeah. And sometimes it gets difficult because they get blindsided.
Absolutely. And, that's where a lot of depression comes in. And maybe, you're an expert more so than me, but I also attribute it to social media because a lot of people, especially over the past few years of COVID, have developed their life, in the cyber world. So a lot of times now, especially those that turned 18 when COVID started, now, we're freeing up. You got to get out there in the workforce. You've lived in this viral space where everybody says, oh, let everyone be like how they are and yay and flowers and buttercups. And then reality hits.
Yes, because actually there's more of an equalness in social media because there's some anonymity to the whole space. But even then and there, you still have the issues that are occurring in Jamaica without people even realizing where they are going. For example, the other day, the issue between Dennis Meadows and Crystal.
Oh, yeah.
Where Crystal had to establish, listen, it's my vagina. I get to choose what I do with it. You don't get to tell me about how I choose to engage.
And I don't think he realized what he said. Like, I think in his head, he just saw it, we in Jamaica always have the snap back, you know what I mean? But yeah.
Right. And so he had to be held to account. And then he had to come back and say, boy, I'm not really a misogynist. But what we need to acknowledge is where it is ingrained in us, where it is in our culture, so that when it comes up, we can apologize and then we can be then more aware to make sure we don't go back down that road again.
So to the So the people who just say it's words and they don't think it's really a big deal, why is everybody making a big deal? It's just da 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 da. Well, what would you say to them?
Well, because it's words that are using a person's. It would be like, so okay, so you're black, stay back. Those are just words, but they mean something,
They
and
get
they have an
ingrained.
impact on the being. It's just the same when people say, like, say to me, like, what about this woman thing? Why woman versus man? I said, like, well, why would women matter more than men? I said, they don't matter more than men. It's the same way. Black lives matter. All lives matter. White lives matter. Yes, all lives matter and white lives matter. But Black people are facing oppression. They are facing prejudice that white people and the rest of the world are not facing.
Yeah.
In the same regard, women are facing what men do not face in the work world.
Absolutely.
So when a woman goes to work and without even knowing it, they are paid less than the man. Not because there's an intention to say we're going to pay women less, but because we intrinsically value women less. And women are not feeling in that space that they can stand up and negotiate for themselves.
How do you get through that? Yeah, because that has been my biggest hindrance. That right there. Being afraid to even talk up most of the time because I'm like, they're going to fire me or they're going to get rid of me. I mean, I'm not there anymore.
Yes. And you grew up in a family that supported you and supported your strength. But it still doesn't prepare you. I am not a great negotiator for myself. Can I tell you? I'm not.
See?
I'm learning that. And I believe that I'm, pretty much at the top of a lot of the ladders that people are aspiring to climb.
Yeah.
But I still am not a good negotiator for myself. My son tells me this all the time. He said, no, man, think about how you're going to deal with your package. Think about how you are valuing yourself. Yeah. You're not doing it. And you are this altruistic story because the woman is the altruistic one. We're doing the right thing for the right reasons, etc. All of that. But you can still be paid enough to do it.
Yeah, but so we don't have that. We haven't had the head start to know what the top dollar looked like. A lot of people wasn't sharing their paycheck. So it's almost like, and that's what people don't get. Yeah, you will talk about slavery, and when slavery so-called stopped, it stopped for all Black people. However, at the same time, we're talking about women still couldn't open bank accounts without their husband opening it. Sometimes you couldn't even decide who you wanted to marry because it's up to your dad, not even up to you. You can get sold out. So women are coming from even further back in the race of humanity and life than anybody, men. This is only two sexes. So
and so to change this, we can't just talk about it and be aware of it, but we have to actually have some action to support it.
So what's the action? What do we do?
So one of the things that I think we can do, and it would be a brave thing, because as you say, we don't talk about pay, is pay transparency.
Yeah.
Legislate or require that anytime we are advertising a job, we must advertise the pay range for that job.
Yes. Transparency,
so it's clear that transparency will help and give power, and not just to women, but to younger people as well who are entering that space.
Yeah.
You know? And then we would have a better chance, because the truth is that the statistics tell us, in Jamaica, the Jamaican women have an estimated earning that is about 62% to 63% of men.
Wait. Hold on. Wait. Pause. Rewind and say that again, much slower and clearer, because I want to make sure they heard what you just said.
All right. So there are two measures that we use. One is that, how much does a woman earn on average versus a man?
In Jamaica,
about 63% on average. The average earnings of women, the average earning of men, is about 63 on the dollar. And then...
That's insane.
Yes, it is amazing, isn't it? I couldn't believe it myself when I look at it, because, when you're in the space, you don't feel it. And then on top of that, there is a measure that is wage equality measure. On a scale of 1 to 7, Jamaica falls at 4.27, which would mean that we are about 62% of what men earn.
Wow. Okay, so we get a D grade, basically. We couldn't even get a C+.
That's correct. It is a problem, because, and you know why it gets confusing?
Yeah.
Because, and that is when you're working for the same job. Why it gets confusing is that because we have more than 50% of your middle managers are women.
Okay.
And so that is why no men say, no, but them should be all right. But no,
Yeah.
dollar for dollar, same job for same job, women earn less. So we have to find ways to enable that.
Yeah, and in a
Right?
lot of cases, the middle management woman that they hired, they usually hire to look good, but at the same time, they're having her do most of their work. So,
Well, for sure, anytime you go into a meeting and there are men and women in the meeting, oftentimes I say to the woman, why don't you take the notes? You also have to learn to not take those notes.
yeah.
Right. And but I want to carry to another stage, I say, where the
Okay.
biases are impacting us, because a big impact of the bias is domestic violence and
Yes.
how it impacts our relationships between men and women and our relationships in the home.
Right.
Now, it is important to note that 1 in 4 women in Jamaica experience some form of domestic violence in their life.
Yeah. Explain the forms of domestic violence, because some people only see it as being kicked up and boxed up, but there's so much more to domestic violence. So if you want to explain
Right.
that, yeah.
So they would have verbal abuse, the kick up and box up, as well as the actual murder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the range for me
Yeah,
of
and the mental
domestic violence.
games too. The mental, you sometimes they don't have to say words. It's actual things that they do mental gameplay, and it really has
Right.
to do some.
Yes. But
Yeah.
so that's what I'm calling for. So the mental gameplay as well.
Yeah.
But that's not counted in 25%.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
So the what's in the 25% is more of the physical domestic violence.
All right. So that means the number is even higher if you count
It
all
is
the other
higher.
things.
It's actually higher.
So I mean,
And then
yeah. I was gonna
so
ask, what do we do then? I mean, I want to make sure we get that part in. What do we do, and how can we take steps to fix it?
well, so there's an initiative in Jamaica called the Spotlight Initiative, spearheaded by the UN, that is working with our Ministry of Gender. So they have a thing where they are putting in domestic violence centers
Mm-hmm.
in police station. But I
Okay.
actually thought it was 14, but when I look back at it today, it says that they're doing two,
Wait, what? How they go
like
from 14 to 2?
in 2 police stations. I misread somewhere.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So, but each of these stations costs like 25,000 US. So I'm
Okay.
saying government put some money behind it and just put one in every police station.
That doesn't really sound expensive when we talk about what we're talking about. That actually sounds like chump change. We like, to be honest, that didn't sound like a big number to me to build a
It
center
doesn't
that
sound
can
like a
help.
big number.
Yeah.
And you might have to add more to it because we need to do more training.
Yeah.
So if you double it so you can get the training in, so you can put the right police there. Because can I tell you, I have a niece
Yeah.
who is the victim of domestic violence,
Yep.
and having to carry her through the process of reporting it and the
Yep.
level of abuse while reporting it,
Yep.
and then the level and the difficulty in going through the court,
Yep.
and then it's difficult.
My high school
And
best friend was in that
it's hard to know.
situation. When we graduated high school, she dated a cop. I don't even know what a cop was doing with a 19-year-old at the time, but yeah. And so I know the steps, and her steps had to have been way more drastic because, like I said, he was a cop. Like, I'd
That's
be
right.
in the mall with her, and she'd get phone calls letting her know exactly where she is and telling her she needs to go somewhere else.
Right. So, and in that regard, no, because it is very hard for her now to
To
report
report.
it and for the person to get prosecuted. So the time has passed, and she says, well, maybe it's not so bad. So she goes back to him.
Yep.
If there was evidence-based prosecution,
Yeah.
then there might have been a different outcome.
That's what we did. We started
Because-
documenting stuff behind his back.
Right. So, but we don't have evidence-based prosecution in Jamaica. So even the other day when we had a video of a man beating a woman,
Yeah.
and everybody was able to
Testify.
identify, they identified the man,
Yeah.
right? We could not prosecute that man.
Why? Why? Wait, why? Why?
Because by the time the woman was to go to prosecute, whatever it is that she was feeling at that time, she now said, okay, it's all right. I'm not going to prosecute.
Yeah,
Pull
so
back.
how
Although
can
she
that
was
change?
okay.
How can that change? How can that change? Because I know in other places, I know in the U.S., if she says, well, I don't want to, they're going to be like, well, he still did it, so he's still going to jail. So
Right, because we can't do evidence-based prosecution.
that's what it's called. How do we change that? How
Well,
do
we need legislation to change that and we have to advocate for it. So as part of our role as the PMP Women's Movement, it's been our role since inception.
yeah
The first set of laws that came for women in Jamaica
yeah
were advocated for by the PMP Women's Movement. Maternity leave,
yeah
even equal pay for equal work,
right
which they find ways to get around, as we can see from the results.
yeah
Um, the and so all of those laws and the Bastard Act, a lot of those laws came through the PNP Women's Movement to
okay.
enable women to be able to be stronger in our society.
Is there a way that we can get both parties to work together? Because I really hate that things happen when this group was in, but it doesn't happen when that group was in. And it's just kind of
No,
crazy
well,
because,
no, right.
yeah,
So happening when we were in was only because we advocated. At that time, we formed alliances,
yeah,
and we do want to form alliances.
mm-hmm,
I know that there is talk around forming a parliamentarian caucus
mm-hmm,
across the aisle,
yeah.
so that for the women, female parliamentarian
Yeah.
caucus, so that we can make sure that we have more genderization, and that's my word, of our
Yeah.
laws,
I
right?
think the citizens of Jamaica would love to see that kind of a unity. You know what I mean? And I think a lot more will get done too, because then you have people checking on people. So
Well, so the truth is, you won't get a perfect unity like that,
yeah,
Nikki Z.
yeah,
Because
no,
the truth of the matter is that the reason why you have two parties is because they have two different perspectives and they have different priorities,
yeah,
right? So right now, for example, in the budget, the priority for the existing government is no matter what, we are going to make sure that we have these fiscal targets met. But instead of working through how do we balance those fiscal targets with what is actually occurring on the ground for people,
mm-hmm.
there's a difference in the perspective. For example,
There's a
that's a,
disconnect with that. It's
that's
crazy.
correct. And so therefore we can't work together
Yeah.
unless there is agreement. So part of our job as advocates is to
Mm-hmm.
work through how we get agreement.
All right.
One thing we do have agreement on is that nobody wants violence against women.
No.
What we don't have agreement on is the way to stop it or to make sure that we can put our money where our mouth is, which is what we're calling for them in the budget.
Yeah.
Put the money in there for the domestic violence
Mm-hmm.
centers, right? Put the money in there to train people in our system,
Mm-hmm.
train our parliamentarians, train our SDCs,
Mm-hmm.
Social Development Commission officers,
Yeah.
train our child protection and family services
Yeah.
officers, train all of our education officers, our teachers,
Yeah.
and our guidance counselors in gender awareness,
Yeah.
so that when they come up with solutions, the solutions will consider the biases against
Yeah.
women
I love
and
that.
to make sure they do things to prevent it from occurring. Because we can't come up with every solution, but that one we can do as action now.
Yeah.
And a big part of who we are of what we call for as the PMP Women's Movement is to have an army of social workers
Yeah.
in addition to our army of soldiers and police.
Yeah.
But we need more social workers than soldiers, because if we get on the ground and start to have the conversations, help our
Oh,
families,
yes. Mental health.
relationships, help our children to see themselves differently, then
Yes.
we can have less violence on the ground.
Are you running for prime minister?
No. But I am certainly running to be a representative and to be a part of a team.
Yeah.
I'm currently a part of a team that I know has the same belief system that I have,
Yeah.
which is where I come back to the teams. I know I'm working with a group of people in the People's National Party
Yeah.
that believe in putting the people at the center.
Yeah, well, I don't pick a PMP or a JLP. I keep it neutral. What I care about is really, that's just me, you know what I mean? Because
That's fine. No, and that's fine.
right, I
And
want people that's going to fix Jamaica, because this island is too beautiful to have the amount of issues that we have. And there's too many riches right here on the island. And instead of selling it out to other people, why we can't have it for ourselves? And speaking of bias, this has nothing to do with women. But now that I got one of you on the line, can I ask a question? Why is it so easy for so many businesses, so many different properties in Jamaica, so many of them, to only put their charges in USD when the minimum wage for an average Jamaican is what now? Barely even 10 grand a month?
not yet 10, 9,000.
Okay. So
That's a
who
very
is
important
okaying this, and
question.
why does this not get stopped? I don't understand what's happening.
And it is an even more important question, especially now that we have said that our frame of reference is to be inflation.
Yeah.
So if they are serious about changing that behavior, they should say that in Jamaica, you cannot price in US dollars.
Yeah, it's simple. I mean, if you want to do online and people buy overseas, great, wonderful. But if you're going to rent
Yes.
an apartment, how are you going to tell people JMD this? I mean, USD, there should be a cap on that because the money does not usually get regenerated and used in Jamaica. That's just more and more ways money gets taken out of Jamaica and spent everywhere else. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But anyway.
That's a good suggestion, though, and that I think we need to look at very
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
Because if we really want to shift it to inflation only, then we need to look at our pricing. Because
Yes.
the truth of the matter is, even at $9,000 of a minimum wage, it's not yet a livable wage.
No. How you
And
in a grocery
we
shop?
go
Feed the
to
kids.
livable wage.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Well,
And we can do more with what we have.
yeah.
I think we limit ourselves with our frame of reference, that we do not put people at the center
Yeah.
of our decisioning and our solutions.
We
If
need
we
to.
do that,
Yeah.
then we think about, if I'm making this decision,
Yeah.
I'm making a decision around moving to inflation pricing, and therefore I'm going to know, then I need to make sure that at minimum, my minimum wage is a livable wage.
Exactly.
If I do that, how do I then help others to adjust to it so that my people can be at the center?
My people, and how my people can live better lives and
And a life
flourish.
of dignity. Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. All right. Thank you for hanging out with me. I didn't know we'd stay on this long, and now we got to go straight to commercial. But I
Nikki,
like
it was lovely to meet you, and keep up your good work.
Thank you so
And
much.
strong.
We'll be meeting again. And tell my girl Crystal I said, what's up? That's my girl. She been glowing lately. Glow, Crystal, glow.
Yeah, I'm telling you, and she is just doing what she needs to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. The beautiful Mrs. Duncan Sutherland right here on the Bridge 99.